All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kurt Hitzemann, County Court Judge here in Hernando County. You folks are here for your first appearance. Purpose of the first appearance is so that you may be informed of the charges against you. I will determine if probable cause exists for those charges. Probable cause simply means it's more likely than not that a crime has occurred, and more likely than not that you're the person that's committed that crime. Of course, as you stand before me this morning, I presume that you're innocent of these charges. That presumption of innocence will stay with you through every stage of the proceedings, unless and until the State Attorney's Office is able to prove the allegations against you beyond and to the exclusion of a reasonable doubt. We'll set your conditions of pretrial release this morning, that is your bail or your bond. In most cases, you had a bond set already pursuant to the bond schedule here in the 5th Judicial Circuit or the warrant which led to your arrest. I'll determine if that bond should be raised or lowered or left the same, or whether there'll be additional conditions of pretrial release placed upon you. We'll let you know when your next court date will be. If you'd like to have the services of the public defender, I will gladly appoint the PD to represent you this morning. You do have a right to have contact with folks on the outside, family, friends, counsel. If you have not had a chance to make that call, please let me know. We'll make sure that that happens. Finally, and most importantly, you're advised that you do have an absolute right to remain silent with regard to the facts which surround your arrest. I encourage you to do that. These proceedings are recorded. In addition, there is an assistant state attorney in the courtroom with me. If you say something that tends to incriminate you, they will use it against you in the prosecution down the road. I now need each and every one of you there at the jail to please raise your right hands and be sworn. You all solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Outstanding. When you hear your name called, please step forward to the podium. Did you want to make an announcement? Hang on one second.
Buenos días. ¿Hay alguien que necesite intérprete en español? Por favor, pase al podio.
Looks like we're good.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Very good. All right. Sabrina Doy. Morning, Sabrina. What's your date of birth?
8/12/77.
Sabrina, you're here on a warrant that was signed by Judge Rupi. She found probable cause for one count of retail theft. As to that charge, you wish to represent yourself. You're going to hire private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Public defender, please.
I'll appoint the PD. And status, she's got an open case.
Yes, Your Honor, in front of Judge Mary.
Okay, and do we, or Kathleen, do you know an offense date? Can you tell me an offense date? So it looks like it's got to be a while ago.
I have April 18th.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And when is that coming back?
7/13 at PTC.
July 13th.
Yes.
All right, Sabrina, what we're going to do on this case, I will leave the bond at, this is a misdemeanor. I'll leave the bond at $1,000. This one's coming back on the 11th of July. The other thing we're going to do here, it appears to me that you have a pending case already in felony court. Job number one when you're out on bond on a felony case, or any case, quite frankly, is don't commit new crimes. It appears to me that you have. Therefore, pursuant to Florida Statute 903.0471, I'm going to revoke your pretrial release in 18 CF 1007. We'll hold you without bond at least until that case gets back to court, which is July 13th. Your attorney in that case will come see you at the jail before you get back to court, and your misdemeanor case will be back on the 11th. Public defender will also come see you at the jail before that date, all right?
Is there any way to keep that bond open? The charges were done around the same time. I just got picked up a month later.
Okay.
I'm not a flight risk. I turned myself in on both cases.
Okay. When you just talk about your cases with the public defender, they'll be able to let you know if there's any way to change that, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Edwards. Morning, Miss Edwards. What's your date of birth?
9/25/87.
Miss Edwards, you're here on a warrant out of Pasco County. The judge in Pasco who signed that warrant found probable cause apparently for a violation of probation and set your bond at no bond. I do not have the authority to change that bond. So we will let Pasco know that you're here and ready to go. I'll give them 5 days to come get you. It doesn't take 5 days with Pasco, but if for some strange reason you were still here in 5 days, they'd bring you back to see me, and I'd find out what the holdup is, all right?
Yep.
Thank you. Daniel Eggers. Morning, sir. What's your date of birth?
73081.
And Daniel, the charge here is commercial burglary. There's probable cause for that charge. As to that charge, you want to represent yourself. You want to hire private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Public defender.
I'll appoint the PD. State.
He has a prior grand theft, a possession of marijuana, and a duelist. That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Daniel, I have an address for you on Broad Street in Brooksville. Is that where you live?
Yes.
How long have you been there?
4 months.
All right. Do you have a job these days?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Concrete work.
Okay. I'll set your bond at $1,000. I'll have you back in court on the 10th of July. Very important that you contact the public defender's office when you get out, all right?
All right.
Thank you. Catherine Faust. What, Miss Faust, what's your date of birth?
2687.
Miss Faust, you're here on a warrant out of Pinellas County. The judge in Pinellas County who signed that warrant found probable cause for violation of probation and set your bond at no bond. I do not have the authority to change that bond. We'll let Pinellas know that you're here and ready to go. We'll give them 5 days to come and get you. If you're still here in 5 days, they'll bring you back to see me, and I'll find out what the holdup is, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Michelle Sutton. Morning, Miss Sutton. What's your date of birth?
4872.
So the first thing I have for you is a warrant signed by Judge Rupi. She found probable cause for a retail petty theft. And then we have a new charge for possession of drug paraphernalia. As to those charges, you want to represent yourself, you want to hire private counsel. Or would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Public defender, but could we take care of those today?
I don't know. State, could you take care of them today?
I would just say no, Your Honor.
Okay, apparently not. State's not ready to make an offer. So we're going to have to get you to court one time to take care of them. And State, give me a little history.
She has a possession of hydrocodone, possession of marijuana, possession of controlled substance, uttering 4 checks, grand theft, and that appears to be it.
Okay. Michelle, where you been staying lately?
4305 Range Road, Brooksville, Florida.
All right, you want to get a little closer to the microphone and say that again?
4305 Range Road, Brooksville, Florida.
Okay. Do you have a job these days?
Yes.
What do you do?
I work for Paul Clark Enterprises.
Okay. Okay, and you wanted the public defender, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll appoint the public defender. I'll set the bond at $1,000 on each count. That's a total of $2,000. I'll have you back in court on the 11th of July. If you're able to bond out, make sure you contact the PD right away. If you can't get out, they're going to come see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gregory Baravecchio. Morning, sir. What's your date of birth?
11/1/1976.
Gregory, I have a warrant for you out of Okaloosa County. Apparently, the judge up there thinks you failed to appear on some felony charges and then set a bond on that warrant and no bond. I can't change that, obviously. So we will let them know that you're here and ready to go. I'll give them 5 days to come get you. If you're still here in 5, they'll bring you back to see me, all right?
Yes, sir. It doesn't matter that I was in custody here for the last 6 months.
Oh, yeah, Gregory, that is the most common reason for people to fail to appear. What that means is you'll probably never be charged with the crime of failing to appear. But this is the only way they get you back on their docket up there so you can take care of those charges.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Andrew Brown. Morning, Mr. Brown. What's your date of birth?
9/12/85.
Andrew Brown, I have 2 counts of burglary being commercial in nature. There's probable cause for those charges. As to those charges, you wish to represent yourself. You're going to hire private counsel. Would you like the public defender?
Public defenders.
I'll appoint the PD. State.
He has a possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, discharging a firearm from a vehicle, possession of marijuana, and paraphernalia, criminal mischief, felony retail theft, loitering, a couple of more drug charges, and a grand theft.
All right. And Andrew, I have an address for you on Wilson Boulevard in Azertown. Is that where you live?
Yes, sir.
How long you been there?
All my life.
All right. You got a job these days?
I got hit with a baseball bat a few months back, so I'm not able to work at the moment.
Okay. I'll set your bond at $1,000 on each case. That's a total of $2,000. I'll have you back on the 10th of July for both cases. If you get out, make sure you contact the public defender right away, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. George Hopkins? Morning, Mr. Hopkins. What's your date of birth?
1/13/1991.
George, the charge is aggravated battery. There's probable cause for the charge. As to that charge, you want to represent yourself. You're going to hire private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Public defense, sir.
I'll appoint the PD. State, what can you tell me?
An organized fraud, a misdemeanor duelist, ×2, a dealing in stolen property, ×2, and a petty theft.
Okay.
And also a bird structure, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. George, I have an address for you on Mobley Road. Is that where you live?
Yes, sir.
How long you been there?
27 years.
You got a job these days?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
Golden Corral.
Okay.
Judge, can I ask you a question?
You can ask, but be careful about saying anything about what happened yesterday, okay?
Oh no, I'm not talking about that.
Okay, all right.
I don't have the 10,000. Is there any way?
George, I was just fixing to reduce it a little here. Okay?
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to set your bond at $5,000, George. Condition of the bond is that you're not going to have any contact with Mr. Preston while this charge is pending. No contact means no contact of any kind. You don't call, you don't write, you don't email, you don't text message, you don't contact him through any social media. Don't have a third person contact him. Don't go where he lives. Don't go where he works. Don't have any contact of any kind. Any way that you might imagine contacting him, I forbid you to do that. If you have contact and we find out about it, your bond can be revoked and you can be held without bond until the charge is resolved. It means no contact even if he wants the contact. So if you answer your phone and hear his voice, you should hang up. If you're out and about and see him, turn around and run the other way. You need to understand that he cannot drop the charges against you. That is never a decision he gets to make. He may go to the state attorney's office and ask them to drop the charges. He may tell them this was a big misunderstanding and he doesn't want to go forward. But that decision belongs solely to the assistant state attorney handling your case. So unless that person or the judge on your case tells you the charges are dropped, you should assume they are not dropped and you should not have contact. I'm going to have you back in court on July 10th. If you get out, George, make sure you contact the public defender right away, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. James Costin?
Yes, sir.
Morning, sir. What's your date of birth?
2942.
James, the charge this morning is battery being domestic in nature. There's probable cause for the charge. As to that charge, you want to represent yourself. You want to hire a private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
I'd like you to appoint if you could.
I will. I'll appoint the public defender.
I had no idea of charges until now.
Okay, that'll happen. Hang on, we'll get you through it. State, what can you tell me?
No criminal history.
That's kind of what I thought.
Shit.
Okay, James, you've been charged with battery. Essentially, that means that in some way you touched somebody who didn't want to be touched the way you touched them. It's also a domestic battery, which is why you were taken to jail without bond yesterday. Domestic means that the alleged victim of the battery is someone who at some point in time you shared a home with or had an intimate relationship. The allegation here is that you shared a home. I think it's a stepdaughter, if I'm correct, or a daughter.
Yes.
All right. And the address I have for you is Dinsmore Street in Brooksville. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's my house.
Right. And how long have you lived there?
About 2 years almost. It'll be 2 years in September. I bought it.
Okay. And do you work in these days or are you retired?
No, I'm retired. Social Security only.
All right. And is Debbie living in that house these days?
No.
Okay.
She lives in Michigan, sir.
Okay. All right. So James, I'm going to set your bond at $100. Condition of the bond is that you'll have no contact with Debbie while this charge is pending. Did you hear me explain no contact a moment ago?
Yes.
And you
can I ask a question?
Sure can. Go ahead.
If they, I don't think they're at my house, but that's the only place I have to go. It's my home.
Right.
She had a plane ticket to leave today.
Good.
So I'm assuming they're gone.
Okay. The only thing I can tell you is I'm not telling you not to have contact with a house, okay? I'm telling you to not have contact with a person. So that the onus is on you, to not have contact with her. That's all I can tell you. So the downside of that is that if you believe she's gone back to Michigan this morning and you go to your house later this afternoon and walk in the door and see her, then you have to turn around and get out because you're the one that can't have contact with her. It may be that she's gone. Sounds like she is. That's fantastic. But the onus is always on you, okay?
I think that they're at a friend's house. I don't think they're there at all.
Okay,
perfect.
Perfect. I'm just telling you, it's on you, okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. The other thing, unfortunately, I have to do, Jim, is I've got to hold you at the jail today up until 4 p.m. so that if she wanted to serve you with a civil injunction for protection against domestic violence, we'd know where to find you. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but the law requires me to hold you till 4 anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we'll have you back in court on the 11th of July. Very important, Jim, that after you get out, you contact the public defender's office so that they can talk to you about what to do with your case, okay?
Okay, but, sir, do they have to hold me till 4?
Yeah, I don't have an option with that, Jim. Yep. There's nothing I can do about that. You'll have to. It doesn't sound like she's going to serve you, but you've got to wait. Gregory Mancuso. Morning, Gregory. What's your date of birth?
12/26/98.
Gregory, the charge is interference with child custody. There's probable cause for that charge. As to that charge, you want to represent yourself. You want to hire private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Public defender.
I'll appoint the PD. State, what can you tell me?
No history, but there's an open case out of Lake County.
Okay. What's the charge in Lake?
I believe it's for theft.
Okay.
Petty theft.
All right. And Gregory, I have an address for you on West Dixie in Leesburg. Is that where you live?
Correct.
How long have you been there?
About 4 months now.
Do you have a job these days?
Yes, I'm working at Hardee's.
Okay. I'm going to set your bond at $500, Gregory. Condition of the bond is that you have no contact with Melania Hardy. Did you hear me explain no contact earlier?
Yes, sir. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Would it be possible to be released on R&R because me and my dad are the only source of income, and my dad cannot support the house loan.
Okay.
My dad has a lot of heart problems and everything.
Okay, and I understand all that, but given the circumstances and your history, I've reduced the bond from $2,000 to $500. That's as low as it's going to go. With the condition that you have contact with Ms. Hardy, you'll be back in court on the 10th of July. If you get out, make sure you contact the PD right away. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Go ahead. Hamid Medjahid.
Yes, sir.
Morning, sir. What's your date of birth?
November 30, 62.
Sir, you're here on a charge of battery being domestic in nature. There's probable cause for the charge. As to that charge, if you wish to represent yourself, you're going to hire private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Yes, sir.
I'll appoint the PD. State what can you tell me?
No criminal history.
All right. Sir, I have an address for you on Huntington Woods Avenue in Spring Hill. Is that where you live?
Yes, sir.
How long have you lived there?
4 years.
Do you have a job these days?
No, sir, I'm an employee.
Okay. And does Gahan Farag live there as well?
It's my wife.
Okay. And she lives there too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to set your bond at $500. Condition of the bond is that you don't have any contact with your wife. Did you hear me explain no contact earlier?
Yes, sir, I did. But there is no home for me.
Well, did you understand when I explained what no contact meant?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I'll get to the home in a second. Also have to hold you up until 4 o'clock this afternoon so that if she wanted to serve you with a civil injunction, we'd know where to find you. As far as the home goes, and I understand it's a hardship, but if she stays there, you'll have to stay someplace else. Find someplace else to stay. Of course, you're always welcome to stay at the jail if you want to do that. Otherwise, you'll have to find somewhere else to stay. You can go by your house to get your clothes, your things, whatever you need for wherever you plan to stay. But if you're going to do that, you've got to contact the sheriff's office first, and they'll meet you there with a deputy who will stand by while you pick up your things and get going where you're going. I'm going to have you back in court on July 11th. Very important that you contact the public defender's office after you get out, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney Rodriguez. Morning, sir. What's your date of birth?
5/25/59.
Rodney, you're hearing a warrant that I signed. I found probable cause for a violation of probation. As to that charge, you want to represent yourself. You want to hire a private counsel. Would you like the public defender?
I need both, please.
I'll point the PD. Bond on the warrant is no bond. I'm not going to change that. I will have you back. Where's my calendar? I will have you back July 13th for arraignment. I think they wrote the 11th. We'll make it the 13th. Public defender will come see you before then, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James Tharp. Morning, Mr. Tharp. What's your date of birth?
2/11/82.
All right. Tharp, I have a warrant for you out of Columbia County. The judge that signed that warrant found probable cause for a violation of probation and set the bond at no bond. As you've heard this morning, I can't change those. We'll let the folks in Columbia know that you're here and ready to go. Give them 5 days to come get you, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Andrew Thomas. Morning, Andrew. What's your date of birth?
11/20/86.
Andrew, I have 2 warrants for you. Each was signed by Judge Rupie, and each is a grand theft. There's probable cause for those charges. We got a bunch of open cases. Let's see. Okay. Do you have the public defender on your other cases, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay. And state no problem if we add these with the felonies that are already in front of Judge Toner?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, it looks like they're all coming back next week, 6/22.
Do I have 6?
Yep. Okay. So Andrew, on these additional charges, I will leave the bonds for the warrant, which is $2,000. So this is another $4,000 total. Appointed the public defender and move these to June 22nd, which is where your other felony cases are as well. All right.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Damian Torres. Morning, Damian. What's your date of birth?
1/4/90.
Charges battery being domestic in nature, Damian. There's probable cause for the charge. As to that charge, you want to represent yourself. You want to hire private counsel. Would you like me to appoint the public defender?
Public defender.
I'll appoint the public defender. State, what can you tell me?
One penny out of New York.
Okay. And Okay, and I have an address for you on Deltona Boulevard. Is that where you live?
Yes.
How long have you lived there?
About 3 years going to 4.
Okay. And does Miss Cuevas live there as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a job these days?
No, I'm on disability. I'm still going through process with them.
I'm going to set your bond at $500. Condition of the bond is that you have no contact with Miss Cuevas. Did you hear me explain that earlier?
Yes.
Did you understand it?
Yes.
Also, we'll hold you up until 4 p.m. So that if she wanted to serve you with a civil injunction, we'd know where to find you. I'll have you back in court on the 11th of July. As far as that address on Deltona goes, as long as Trinity stays there, you'll have to find someplace else to stay until we get this case resolved. You can go by one time to collect your things, but you must contact the sheriff's office before you go, all right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kawan Vickers.
All right.
Somebody tell me what we're doing with Mr. Vickers.
I have some notes, Judge.
Okay.
It's my understanding that he's on for a violation of probation in case 2017 CT 2502. He also has a possession of paraphernalia case number 18 MM 1575.
Right.
He also had a robbery by sudden snatching charge that was dropped. That was case number 17 CF 2142. The original recommendation for the felony or for the violation of probation on misdemeanors was 60 days.
Right.
We would be asking for 30, assuming that's acceptable to Mr. Vickers, based on the fact that the felony charge was dropped.
And was the felony charge the main basis of the VOP?
I don't have a copy of the VOP affidavit, unfortunately. It was one of the reasons. I do think he also picked up that paraphernalia charge as well.
Let's see.
He also has 30 days of credit, and we would.
There you go. Well, that makes sense. Let's see. Yes. The robbery certainly was one of the issues. And the paraphernalia. State, do you have any opinion one way or the other?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Kawan, you want to resolve your cases with time served today?
Yes, sir.
All right. You understand in the VOP, by entering an admission to a violation of probation, you give up the right to have a trial to the court, the right to confront the witnesses against you, but you want to give up those rights so we can resolve that case today?
Yes, sir.
Case number 17 CT 2502, do you admit that you violated your probation?
Yes, sir.
I'll accept the admission, find it's freely and voluntarily made, revoke and terminate the probation unsuccessfully, adjudicate you guilty of the underlying charge if that was not done before. Sentence you to 30 days in the county jail, credit 30 days served. Finding court costs is, cost of prosecution is $50, $100 for the public defender's office, and your costs of incarceration. On your paraphernalia case, in that case, by entering a plea, you give up the right to have a trial by jury, the right to confront the witnesses against you, the right to remain silent. But you're willing to give up those rights so we can take care of this today?
Yes, sir.
And then in that case, as to the charge that you possess drug paraphernalia, how do you wish to plead? You may plead no contest.
No contest.
I'll accept that plea, find it's freely and voluntarily made. I'll adjudicate you guilty of the charge, sentence you to 30 days in the county jail, credit 30 days served. Finding court costs is $518 to $100 for the public defender's office. That takes care of the misdemeanors, Mr. Vickers. If there's nothing else keeping you in the jail today, you will be released today, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Good luck.
Your
I
Honor.
have Anthony Nicolini.
Your Honor.
Yep. Go ahead.
Does the ruling for 172502 take care of the FTA, BWSR, and the VOP?
Was there an FTA? Yeah, well, it takes care of everything. To the extent that I need to recall something, it's recalled, and this should take care of everything related to those two misdemeanor cases.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And Mr. Nicolini, was he just looking for the appointment of a PD? Is that why he's here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, Anthony, I'll appoint a public defender to represent you. If you're unable to bond out, they'll come and see you before your court date, okay?
Yes, sir.
Very good.